When temporary teams make permanent decisions, what F1 stewards can teach any organization that asks rotating groups to make consistent, high-stakes calls by ExperiencesXO. Formula One gives race stewards the authority to change results, championship points, contractual bonuses, and professional reputations decided by panels of volunteers who mostly rotate race to race. The real problem sits above any single penalty. Formula One asks temporary groups to apply one championship-wide standard under time pressure and public scrutiny, with almost no infrastructure for one weekend's panel to learn from the last ones. Paying and professionalizing the panel would help, but it would not make controversy disappear. The 2026 FIFA World Cup ran with fully professional referees and extensive video review, and still produced a disputed VAR decision serious enough that soccer's own rulemaking body admitted the protocol had been misapplied, an admission FIFA itself is now publicly contesting. Better tools change the conditions for judgment, not the organization's job of designing the process, explaining the calls, and showing it is learned from what it got wrong. How Formula One's regulatory system works. Formula One separates its commercial operation from its sporting regulation. The company runs media, sponsorship, and the event product. The FIA writes and enforces the sporting, technical, and safety rules. A race weekend splits responsibility across several roles. Stewards sit at the end of that chain. They investigate incidents and decide whether penalties follow. A standard separation of duties where the people running the events aren't the ones judging violations of it. The panel runs 4 or 5 people per race. Most FIA appointed include the chair, with the host country's sporting authority typically supplying at least one member. One seat is reserved for a former Grand Prix driver, rotating among a small group with direct racing credibility. That's a reasonable mix on paper: international, former driver, and local. What doesn't carry over is the panel itself, which changes most weekends. So Formula One is really running a rotating network of officials, not a standing judicial body. Temporary teams with permanent authority. In organizational design, decision rights determine who has authority to decide, what information supports it, and who's accountable. Formula One stewards hold real decision rights: time penalties, grid penalties, reprimands, disqualifications, decided collectively and issued as one ruling, individual votes never disclosed. The setup resembles a temporary expert team assembled for one high-stakes assignment, credentialed, but rarely having worked this exact combination before. Organizational psychologists call this swift trust, a group performing before members build working relationships, running instead on qualifications and confidence in each other's competence. That's a fine substitute for experience when the task is predictable. A worse one when the call sits right on the line between hard racing and a punishable move, which is most of what stewards adjudicate. Rotation isn't a design flaw on its own. It brings different perspectives and stops any panel from developing a fixed read on a team or driver over a season. What it doesn't build is shared judgment. A stable team learns how its members weigh a borderline call, and that tacit knowledge doesn't survive the panel disbanding on Sunday night. The problem is narrow. Whatever one weekend's panel learns has to outlive that panel.